3, 2, 1. Greetings, Force Mortal. 'Tis I, Viktorya Roze Tassi. I am so sorry about it being 4 months since I last posted an update. However, in my defense, I was super sick. Also, my notes are kind of going to be all over the place. I apologize most sincerely for that. However, I do have a list of random bullet points of issues that I'd like to see VX5, the people behind Missouri Comic Con, fix. And yes. So anyway, in this video, I'm going to be in this video. God, I absolutely hate saying in this video. Just yes. Let's dive in, shall we now? In the disabled community, the people are represented by those who wish to bring inclusivity to those who need them both, and by themselves asking for basic accommodation. These are their stories. Dun dun! I'm so sorry, Dick Wolf. Don't sue me, please. Just, yeah. So, let's carry on, shall we? So, MOCC 2023, that is MissouriComicCon's first year of putting on a con. I send them an email asking them, hey, what kind of accommodations do you guys have in place? They get back to me and say to me, hello, yes, MissouriComicCon is fully ADA applicable. Put a pin in that, will you? I get to the convention center on the Saturday because it's a Saturday-Sunday event. And as I'm getting my wristband, I say to the nice woman, hey, where do I go for ADA? I'm deaf and I would like to look into getting a couple of interpreters for 2 panels that I was attending the next day, Sunday. One on building your own cosplays and the other on cosplay horror stories, because I'll tell you what, I have cosplay stories aplenty. Cue total pandemonium for like 40 minutes until the con lawyer comes out to me. Yes, that's right. Turns out that Missouri Comic Con was not, in fact, fully ADA applicable. So, yeah, I turned into a little bit. I turned into a bit of a Karen at that point, I'll admit that much. And I was saying stuff to the poor lawyer, such as, this is completely unacceptable. And I was told that the con would in fact be fully ADA applicable. What the hell is going on here? And just, I'll tell you what, the poor lawyer was honestly pooping his man panties. He was going, oh my god, I'm so sorry, I don't understand what happened. And at one point, I turned to him and I say to him, I can sue over this because I could in fact actually sue over that. And I wasn't going to sue. I'm too nice to do that kind of stuff. And honestly, the color in his face just drained at that point. And yeah. Anyway, at least they went and they fixed their mix-up. And at least they went and they fixed their makeup, their mix-up. They went into the vendor hall the following day during opening notes and they say, hey, so we're having an issue, and that issue is that there's someone who needs ASL interpretation services. They were told that the con does provide interpretation services. The con does not. We need someone to come in and sign for them. They found someone who signed for them. They offered them compensation. Compensation. I can't ever say that word right. But anyway, they say to them, hey, thank you so much for doing that. We will pay you. Or like whatever. Like, I don't know exactly how that works. And anyway, that's basically how Missouri Comic Con got themselves out of a very sticky situation. And so I'm going to hop into the video by saying that VX5 needs to have more ASL interpreters. Missouri Comic Con is extremely alienating to the deaf community. And then in parentheses, I have MissouriComicCon2025 had one interpreter in the main ballroom. And I also met a dozen hard of hearing / deaf individuals who asked me about interpretation services. And it absolutely destroyed me that I kept needing to inform them that there was only one person who knew ASL enough to interpret. And then I say to Paige, who's in charge of volunteering, hey, you can reach out to local deaf club, colleges, and even high school and offer to do a special event / extra credit deal with them, because people absolutely love those kind of opportunities. Sorry, my throat is still not feeling 100% today. And yeah. Also, while we're on the subject, VX5 needs to employ more local artists instead of just relying on out-of-state vendors, because it's called Missouri Comic Con, not Midwest USA Comic Con. We had people from Arkansas, people from Mississippi, a couple people from Alabama, which, come on, it's called Missouri Comic Con again, not Midwest USA Con. And there were also a couple of vendors who had two stalls, like two stalls right next to each other, occupied. And the thing about the Springfield Expo Center is that it is a really tiny event space. I mean, there's only like, I want to say 100 spots for vendors. And when people take up two spots, they are basically stealing from other artists. It's just like, I'm not in charge of VX5, so I can't comment on that whatsoever. However, VX5 also does cons in Alabama, Missouri, Mississippi, just stuff like that. And also, while we're on the subject of the Expo Center, the Convention Center needs to better utilize all three concession stands. So, the first Missouri Comic Con, all three concession stands were open. However, last year and this year, only one concession stand was open. So now I'm going to describe the layout for you. You come into the Expo Center and you're on the second floor. You can go down to the first floor via either the elevator or the stairs. I always take the elevators, side note. And so you get down, and there is a concession stand on the left hand and the right side of the concession stand, like right after you get down. And then there's also a concession stand at the end of Hall A. The concession stand at the end of Hall A and on the right side of the entrance were closed for whatever reason. And so it was oftentimes takes up to like an hour and a half to get mediocre food. Just, yeah. And also there were people saying that it cost an arm and a leg for a can of soda. $4 isn't all that bad in comparison to San Diego Comic Con. I'll just say that much. Also, if Missouri Comic Con really wants to, then they could have like food trucks next door in the theater parking lot. That would be so much more convenient. And also, while we're on the subject of it, why the actual heck face is Missouri Comic Con like held in February, where it's stupidly cold and snowy? Like, it snowed the Sunday of, and it made getting from the main convention center to across the street, which is basically where some of the panels were, an absolute hazard. Just, I'll tell you what, I was halfway expecting for there to be a car that hit someone. Just, yeah. However, while we're on the subject, Missouri Comic Con should move from the Springfield Expo Center to the Oasis Hotel and Convention Center, because the venue is massively sized with the hotel and numerous other attached conference rooms. There could be more guests, more vendors, and more penders and more panel. This is a massively missed opportunity in my book, if you ask me. Also, there were a lot of people who asked me where they could find the first aid station. There was no first aid station. This doesn't have to be much. Just a booth with band-aids and painkillers can go a long way. Just, yeah. At San Diego Comic Con, there are literal paramedics who are like set up there. Sorry, I keep needing to take water breaks, people. And just, yeah, I'll tell you what, however, that could be a massive hit. Also, I'm going to hopscotch back over to the part where the con needs to stop expanding across the street. It was snowing on Sunday, and crossing the street was a massive hazard. Not a good way to hold a con, if you ask me. Also, while we're on the subject, what is preventing VX5 from moving the con away from winter and into spring where there aren't ice hazards? I know Missouri weather can be extremely unpredictable, but come on. Also, if VX5 is not going to move away from the Springfield Expo Center, they should have a bus system that goes from the local hotels and parking space to the convention center. It would be massively beneficial for cosplayers with huge bulky cosplayers. For example, instead of having them park 2 miles away and have them hike up to the expo center, they can park the car, wait, board a bus, toot toot, their way over to the convention center, get off, and then bam, they're at the con. That would be massively helpful, if you ask me, by the way. While we're on the subject, why do people even wear bulky cosplay to like Missouri Comic Con and stuff? Like San Diego Comic Con, I can understand, but hmm, yeah. So a couple of other notes before I hop off. One, I was using a cane as how my knees generally tend to gimp out whenever the weather turns absolutely downright miserably cold. And due to that, I was mostly set up on easy tasks, such as handing out flyers up at the front entrance and directing people. And so I constantly made fun of my handicap, playfully reminding people that I was carrying a lethal weapon with me at all times. LOL me, I'm such a derp. Just, yeah. I'll tell you what, however, that was just basically me being a absolute goofball. Just also, Paige, who was in charge of volunteering, told me that she tried to put some time aside for us to sit and discuss ways of how to bring more ADA to Missouri Comic Con, MOCC 2026, but she was just too damn busy. Someone give that woman a break and someone get that woman a cookie. She really deserves it. Also, she lived in Mississippi. Also, she lived in Mississippi. Sorry, I'm just stuttering all over the place today. So that means that we can't meet up at my favorite coffee house and grab something to drink. Just, yeah. Anyway, that's all the notes I have for right now, and I do not know how to end videos. Bye!